Yeah.
Somebody tell Chris.
Now
Somebody
you
tell
guys, no,
Donovan to
come on,
make some
guys.
Evil
glasses.
No,
green.
I'm over here trying to
Evil
get work
green.
done. I'm trying to
All
get
right,
work done.
guys. Okay. So
He's
I
back.
just
He's
got
back.
back in the room. Is he back?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to get work done over here, guys. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm doing behind the scenes, and I got to come from behind the scenes now and address this. But no, Grant, you did fucking put a staple gun in my fucking head, okay, with the shit you said. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump back over there. Go ahead, wrap it up, chat.
All right, guys. Yeah, that was crazy. If you can't tell, we have a blast over here on Chatter. We have video, which is you are not getting that on any other platform. So make sure you reach out to a co-host or moderator to get an exclusive invite over to Chatter and come join us. Matter of fact, download the Chatter app now. Get that invite and come over while we are taping live. We tape live every day, every
You
evening
wrong for that,
over
Daffodil.
here on Chatter. We also have personalities like Grant Cardone, Cindy Stumpo, TC, Divine, and a host of other hilarious characters. So make sure you join us and tap in with Debate the News. Back over to you, JB.
All right, guys. Yeah, so yeah, we're definitely we're definitely about to jump back into this. Nora, you about to jump into this. Cindy, first of all, Cindy, I saw you over there doing your podcast, getting ready for your podcast. You want to tell us about that, Cindy? What are your plans before we jump into Nora?
She boomed the room.
I boomed the room on
Yeah.
Nora.
So yeah, but tell me what you were about to do.
No.
What, what,
We're just setting up a business room where people can come in, be comfortable. We're not taping anything, and speak about business, where business is going, how they're looking in their businesses or their workplace, and to build confidence up. Okay, stop, get your head out of the media and start concentrating on your companies, where you work, leveling up. The economy's going to go where it's going to go. You and I aren't strong enough to stop it. So ride the wave. It's not your first one. If you're over the age of 50, you've been through this twice already in business. And Bing, I
yeah.
know you've been through it twice. So let's
Yep.
go.
Yeah. Guys, I
And we
remember the
all know
first.
what goes
The,
down comes up.
Yeah, I remember the first time I spoke to Cindy. I called her on the phone, and I didn't know Cindy at the time, and I didn't know I was going to be on that phone for over 2 hours. Okay, but
But now
Cindy
you know
and
it's
I,
always 2 hours.
Two
but
hours
Cindy
and
and I were
22
speaking.
seconds and go ahead.
Yeah, Cindy and I were speaking, and she like, yo, she asked me a question like, yo, I think she asked me, did you get hurt the last downturn? I was like, Cindy,
No,
I
I
got
think I told
slaughtered.
him he did.
Yeah, like, no, no, you asked me, and I told you, no, I said I got slaughtered,
Well,
Cindy.
that was me setting you up for a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, you did, and then when I
And you
answered you, and I
answered
got slaughtered.
it. You
You-
answered
Honestly,
honestly. And I
exactly.
said
That's
to you, I respect that because most people always say something different. Oh, I didn't get hurt. Oh, it was great. Blah, blah, blah. No, you were dead honest. You said, Cindy, pretty much my word, you got schmeckled, right?
I
So,
got slaughtered. Is what I said.
and
I
I
got slaughtered.
said, and then you came back up again.
Yep.
And what I
So
say, and it's going to
yeah,
happen
yep,
again.
yep. He
So
says
be
it's going. Yeah,
prepared for the next time.
next exactly. Be prepared for the next time. But yeah, and so we were on the phone for 2 hours, guys, and we took it from there. And then she came up and did an event up in Boston that she would normally not do, but she came up there and did that. So and there it is. That's Cindy, guys. Cindy came out like not hardly knowing me, just came out and just said, "I'll do that for you." So always had a great time. I've spent nights at Cindy's house and everything. Broke bread at her home and everything else since then, guys. So yeah, and we met on once again social audio, like
I
right here.
actually got into bed also.
Yeah, Cindy got into bed with
Hello?
me. So Cindy got
Wait,
in
wait,
bed with
wait,
me.
Oh,
wait, wait, hello?
You sounding
Wait,
Ray. Ray about to lay them
uh,
hands on you.
hello?
we look like an opposite Oreo cookie, but it's all good.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I had two white women in the bed with me. Cindy was
Ray
one of
about to
them.
put them hands on you.
Would you win?
Anybody that stays in my house, I literally jump into bed in the morning. Hey, what's going on?
Hello?
I don't know
Wow,
who's
chicka wow
naked, who's
wow.
Yeah,
dressed. I don't care. I'm like, hey, I'm
Best
in here.
part of waking up.
I just barge in. I don't care.
yeah.
One
She
knock you
walked
get.
in and
One knock in the room I go.
she boom, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm in Boston. I got two white women in the bed with me." Okay, yo,
Yeah.
look at me, ma.
Mama made it.
Mama
And
made
I
it.
did. I said to him, I
Mama
said,
made it.
wait, Jonathan, if you remember, I said, push over, push over.
Yeah,
Put your arm around it.
She squeezed Daphne little ass over it. It's like, yo, get out of here. Like, and I was like, hey, what's up? But it was
Move
cool.
over, Blondie. I'm coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No, guys. So no, good stuff there, guys. So, but that once again, guys, that's what I love about these like Chatter, Grant, Cindy, and all these people, man, all these wonderful people that we have met here. Chad, Nelson, you name it. Tara's here somewhere. Skull, Luis, Australia. Got Rochelle. Once again. Lisa, we got Ravi. I'm naming some Momo. As I go up, I just naming everyone. Laura, Julie, Diana, crazy ass Diana. I didn't know that people were really mental. I didn't know there's functioning mental people until I met Diana. You know, so Lauren's as sweet as she can be, guys. Yeah, Dr. Catherine. She's a doctor, MD, and she is, believe it or not, guys, believe it or not, she is, how should I put this? She is the biggest troll out
She
there.
is a
So
doctor of
with that,
sarcasm. Absolutely.
yeah, so 100%, guys. I want to go ahead and we want to jump back into it, guys. Yeah, so let's jump back into it. So, Nora, you're
Well,
up.
let me make the facts straight. It was really Jonathan and I in bed together. She wasn't there. It was just Jonathan and I.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Ray jumped in. I'm sorry.
Bomb
It was
squad.
That's
me.
okay.
Nah,
It's okay.
Jonathan, it
nah,
was me, you, and Ray.
Jonathan defending her.
nah,
If you want
Oh
to.
wow.
whatever. Nah,
Hey,
It's a
that,
Cindy.
party. It's
look,
a
look,
party.
guys.
It's a party.
Cindy,
Yeah.
before Jonathan goes forward, are you gonna? I was in the room earlier. It was good. Are you gonna do it all the time or not?
Yes, I am. We are. Every night
What?
at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Okay.
And Thursdays is Thursday's Throwdown Special Edition.
We throwing down.
Okay, can I actually really
Everybody.
do this now?
Nora, y'all let Nora go. It's on
You
Nora.
go ahead, Nora. Your
No,
room,
Y'all
Leah.
let
I'm
Nora
fine.
go. No, go ahead, babe. You
Um,
got it, huh?
What about your room, Leah?
so I just want to start by saying, dude who was talking about budgetary policy, it's called fiscal policy, not budgetary policy. And that just means how much you spend versus how much you save, or what our deficit is, and also that includes the budget. That's pretty much the only thing you got right in that. The two things that will influence inflation are both monetary and fiscal policy, but also tariffs, not just because you forgot, you need both you and the other person who spoke before you neglected to remember that all of these other currencies in these Southeast Asian countries are incredibly devalued, and that's what makes these goods relatively cheap for us. That and their lax labor laws and the lax pollution, but bringing them into the United States is going to strengthen the American dollar, and that is deflationary as an impact, because it makes it so that we do not have a current account deficit. And when you have a current account deficit running for as long as we have, you can't keep that deficit running forever. At some point, the dollar has to weaken and inflate in order to compensate for the fact that we have all of this foreign debt, because the debt, you got to pay back the debt somehow, and those other currencies have to appreciate. They can try to manipulate them for as long as they can, but you can't do it forever. Eventually it catches up to you. But anyway, what he's right, but I'm not sure if we're actually doing it. Is if we can reduce spending and reduce fiscal spending, like that actually will have a much more significant effect than interest rates on the impact of inflation. Because the reason that the Biden administration and Democrats love spending so much is because fiscal policy is the easiest way to create short-term economic stimulus that ends up 2 to 3 years later fucking us over. So it'll get you through an election and make you look good, and then it's the next guy's problem, basically. People might say the deficit got bigger under Trump, but that's not due to higher spending. It's because he reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 15%. So it was, the deficit increased, but that fiscal spending that would cause inflationary forces was not happening. And so if he's cutting taxes, even if he's not reducing the deficit, that we're not getting that economic stimulus from fiscal policy and from the government spending money, because the government spending money has just as much of an inflationary effect as consumers spending money. And let's see. Look, otherwise, tariffs. Yeah, I think they're going to be good probably for us. We need to kind of take back our economic sovereignty. I don't want to argue with anyone who's like doesn't know about this stuff, because I've been writing papers about NAFTA since like 9th grade. And when I wrote my,
Was that before or after you went to law school? Just asking.
9th grade? Yeah, that was before. So that was
my man Corey.
But
I got my man Corey up here.
International.
Oh, God save it. Yeah, because she's about to start lying about law school again.
Well, maybe she went in 8th grade.
What do you mean lying about law school?
Somebody's going to say God silence you any minute.
I didn't say that.
Jonathan, you should shut the fuck up, because if you had half the education I would, you'd have room to speak, but you don't.
You know what?
Damn.
You know what?
Nikki. She's a white Nikki.
I have a lot more fucking intelligence than you do. Okay, so let's go there. If you want to go there, let's go.
Okay,
because I've never gone out there. I've never gone out there and falsely claimed to be an attorney, and we have you on tape saying that. So if you want to talk, we'll talk about that. Okay. But we're not, okay? Because no, we're not gonna go there. No, because let's move on.
Because her OnlyFans account does better than yours.
Grant, you represented her.
I get a lot more of my foot. My OnlyFans foot account does really well, Grant.
Not the feet fetish. It's crazy.
So,
Nora,
Corey, what's up?
I'm actually thinking about taking the bar, and then
people give a lot of money.
July, you guys are going to finally shut the fuck up forever. So it might be worth it, because then you'll literally have to shut the fuck up, and having Jonathan and Tira shut the fuck up forever will be worth the like $1,000 or $2,000.
Well, Tira doesn't know much. She just comes on Clubhouse to get validation.
TC,
you don't even have to worry about Tira. She just comes on here and act like she knows.
We all know it. Nora was on X.
You should have been here yesterday when I backed up Skull.
I had not known. So
Skull is still licking his wounds.
One second. TC, we're not talking about Skull yesterday.
Come back since that, TC.
He's still licking his wounds.
TC, let me just, okay, so,
I had to school him on the Second Amendment.
No, TC. All right. One second.
About to get packed up.
Yeah, there you go. TC, yeah, come on, bro. You gotta pick your moments, man. This is still a show. So anyway,
you can't shut TC down. You can't touch it. I can't.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can, man. He's got.
You gotta stop doing that.
So anyway, no.
That is wrong, dude.
No, he's got to pick his moments, Grant. He's got to pick his moments.
His timing was perfect. I cannot.
No, his timing was not perfect.
You gotta stay on the movie.
Black man,
no. Actually, first of all, he did two things wrong. First of all, his timing was wrong. Second of all, he was talking about last night. Okay. Third of all, he interrupted this white woman. And
that's a cardinal sin.
Nora or
Tira.
Tira's white. She's not a woman.
That was really stupid and not funny. But hey, Grant, keep going with dumb, not funny jokes.
But for the record,
Nora,
coming
please.
at me over the
Nora, please stop. Come on, honey, just stop. We've all heard you.
You
we
child.
know who you are. We all
You're
understand.
You're a child.
She's
Nora, special, Nora. She doesn't call anybody honey.
Has to do with economics, which I do
have. Nora, I heard you on X claiming that you were a national security expert the other day.
Oh my God.
Okay, Tira, so you're a lawyer, a national security expert, I'm writing papers on NAFTA.
Yes, I learned.
Man, why are you goddamn Democrats bullying my friend Nora?
Oh, come on, you got
what's wrong with you guys?
Remember when you had the trial and Grant, like he what did he do? He bribed you.
I don't recall. I do not recall.
Take the fifth, Nelson. Take the fifth.
It never happened.
Nelson, you gotta
be
careful. Okay, so
Fifth Amendment right.
Mutiny. Get out the kitchen.
Is it fifth or first? Which one is it?
Nora, don't fall for any of their investment schemes, Nora. They're just trying to take advantage of you.
Jump in.
So anyway, so one of the things that has been said is that, we're assuming certain things. So for example, we're assuming that the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime is going to happen. We have no evidence of this. We have nothing in Congress. We haven't seen anything about a tax bill, have we? The only thing we've seen is a budget. And the budget doesn't cut spending, which was another part of how we're going to become so much more prosperous with these crazy tariffs, right?
Wake it up.
We're going to cut our spending. We're going to not have tax. We're getting rid of the end good. All of these things, none of these things are happening. If you look at the Senate bill, and this was analyzed by independent budgetary authorities, there's basically the potential for the federal debt to go up by $5.7 trillion over the next 10 years. There's no spending cuts. No spending cuts. What has happened is in order to give the tax decrease that he wants, he's cutting things in different areas, but it's actually going up. All of this so-called fraud, Elon Musk, I'm finding all this fraud. None of these things are going to matter. Okay, we're not cutting things. We are actually raising things.
He's tried to cut like 80% of the federal
Nora,
government
please.
staff.
I'm speaking. I think we let you finish.
Well, you muted me before I could actually
didn't mute.
finish
I haven't
talking.
touched you, nor would I.
So,
listen, Nora.
You continue.
Nora,
one second. We're gonna let. Oh, go ahead, Tara.
Okay.
Because I was muted again.
Yeah, Tara. Nora is a subject matter expert here.
On
we
what?
really should toss the mic to her.
Now she's an economic subject.
I'm just saying.
I thought it was handbags.
She's an expert. Somebody keeps muting. Who's muting?
Why the fuck are you muting me?
I did.
Nelson, you're diabolical.
I learned.
I did the muting. Okay, I did the muting. Please don't mute. Okay, because we need to get control of the stage. And I didn't know I was on mute. And then anyone else use mute all again. If I find out who you are, you're gone. All right, that's crazy. All right, so what I wanted to say, Laura, we don't jump in. It's a horrible listening experience. Okay, if you want to get your point out there, you can get your point out there, but you're not going to talk over someone. That's how we do it here. Okay, so I'm going to unmute. I'm going back to Tara, and then you can respond.
Well, look, I think we've seen that the taxes are not particularly rational. There are some tariffs. There are some rational tariffs people could impose, but what Trump is doing is all over the place. There are no deals being made. China is putting a lot of pressure. Other countries, because he has gone against our allies, this has not gone over well in the world. Other countries are looking for other trading partners. It's not a sensible policy. Moreover, it changes on a dime depending on who's in his office, who talks to him, and what he had for breakfast, apparently. We have seen no evidence of cuts in the federal budget. I keep saying there's nothing there. Look at the budgets. They go up. So one way, if you're saying, we're going to cut spending, we're going to be so much more lean and mean, we're not. We're not doing it, okay? All of these tax proposals, maybe they'll come into play, but there's no evidence of this and nobody has been talking about them. These were campaign promises. Maybe we'll see it later, but we certainly haven't seen it now. So overall, what we're seeing is an ineffective tariff policy that goes up and down, increased spending, and no possibility of people getting more money in their pockets at this point. Thank you.
Facts.
Okay, so first of all, you can stay within your realm of expertise, and you should know that Congress is in charge of passing the budget and the federal budget and deciding the federal budget, not Trump. Trump has the executive authority to negotiate tariffs because he can handle international matters. So that's the law side. But besides that, you can shut the fuck up because you're not the economics expert here. I am.
You are?
Economics.
Wow. One mic on Nora. One mic on Nora. One mic. 1 second. Nora, 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. One mic on Nora, guys. Go ahead, Nora.
Yeah, I learned economics from Maurice Obstfeld, the former chief economist of the IMF, former Harvard Business School professor, and also, by the way, the person that every BlackRock executive has learned everything from. I recently attended a seminar of his at the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco that was hosted by BlackRock. So, yeah, I'm the expert in this subject. You can shut the fuck up. And he gave a presentation on Trump's policies and his economic policies. So I'm going off of what he says because BlackRock listens to him. So I think I'm going to. He also was on the Council for Economic Advisors to the President for Barack Obama. So if you think that he's somehow biased or Republican or whatever, he was tapped by Obama for actual economic policy. And international trade. He wrote the actual fucking book on it. Like, look it up.
Right.
So
no,
tariffs are going to be good for us. If things are chaotic right now, and I agree with you, it's silly and it looks stupid to be changing with the policies every day. I think he thinks he's like the master negotiator, like he's like, it's the art of the deal, but it actually just makes us look like makes things look chaotic and disorganized, and it's not a good look. That I can agree with. China is actually bending a little bit because they don't really have much. They actually really don't have that much leverage here. They do need the US as a consumer, and but they are threatening with other BRICS countries to retaliate against any country that makes a favorable trade deal with US. So they're finding their footing and getting some leverage in that regard. They paused the tariffs for 90 days, which I think was a bad look, but it was for auto manufacturers to handle supply chain issues. I can also really bring in like a lot of really interesting articles that address some of the really more expensive manufacturing that we do, like Boeing airplanes and automobiles and the precision manufacturing, and those are the high ticket items, and making those sovereign and not having risky supply chains is really good for the United States. I can just post an article about that was sent that was posted by Camilo Sandoval, who was
1000%.
a former advisor to the president. Now he's in charge of like AI policy for the White House or whatever.
2
But I
hours
also
later.
encourage you guys.
Ignore it. No, that's a Democrat. Ignore that. That's a Democrat. Let me just say this. It is so refreshing to
You
hear.
ain't shit, Nelson.
And
Bullshit.
you're about to
Listen,
say
Diabolical
something you
let me
know is
ass.
finish. Let me
shit, and you're
finish.
about
Let me
to do it
finish.
anyway.
Let me finish. It is so refreshing to hear from, a female Republican strong that can just balance the leftist shit we hear on this stage on a daily basis. So a big
Oh,
shout
shut
out
the
to
fuck up.
Nora for being here. But Nora, you got to make us Republicans look good. It's take off and land. Not take off and hover in the air for a little bit. We got to take off, hit the point, land a plane. You know what I mean?
I
So we
mean,
make
I've tried.
them
I'm
look
done.
stupid.
It's
They
hard,
just they
Nelson.
just
She
gave
has
me too
15
many.
degrees and all.
Get your
They
goddamn
didn't
Mike
teach
Johnson.
that in the seminar, Nelson.
Pandering,
All right,
diabolical
enough of it
ass,
now. Everybody
Nelson.
listen to
No,
Nora.
I'm just saying. We're doing good. We're up right now. We're up 5 points. Tara, what you got?
You're talking to me? Well, they didn't teach in the seminar how to land the plane, so maybe she has to go to flight school next, okay? Just
Yeah,
saying.
are you talking, Tara? Are you talking?
Anyway, we'll see.
Boom, boom,
Okay.
boom.
Boom, boom, boom. All right.
Oh,
So, anyway, yes, I believe I made it quite clear in my initial remarks that the Congress was passing a budgetary bill that Trump had approved. Trump said it's a great bill. So, yes, of course, it's in their responsibility, but don't tell me the president has no impact on this particular Congress because, in fact, he rules this particular Congress. They are terrified of him because they think he's going to primary them. So, the budget that's being passed, once again, no spending cuts, spending increases, all of this waste and supposed fraud that Musk is finding. It's not really fraud, it's just stuff he doesn't like, which is fair. But all that stuff might well be in the next budget because Congress is going to go ahead and approve some of these grants again, okay? So this is all not happening, and we are seeing this ineffective tariff policy. It is hurting us right now. There's no deals.
How is
Who's
it hurting us?
How's it hurting us? Look, the markets are plummeting. Inflation is going up. People are terrified. Look at consumer confidence. It's a disaster. It's going down. And even though I don't think approval ratings are that meaningful right now, Trump's approval rating in the economy is lower than it has ever been in both of his terms.
It
And this
actually
is
went up.
no. It's 43%. That's the lowest it's ever been. And this is supposedly his bailiwick. This is the area. He's the great negotiator. He's the whatever. He's not making a lot of sense. I mean, we heard the other day how Besant and whoever had to get him in a room separately from Navarro because they wanted to talk sense into him. The White House, he's all over the place. He's got to calm down, okay? He's got to become a president. He's got to become a guy with real ideas and not flip-flopping every day. And he's got to talk to Congress if he really wants a tax bill that's going to do, what TC says it is. It's going to not have tax on tips and whatever. Let him say it. But right now, everything's being done by executive order more than anyone's ever done. Nothing is happening. The courts are stopping most of them because they are not legal, or many of them are not legal. This is not
Facts.
the way to run. This is not the way to run things. He's not doing good.
Okay, first
Nor,
of all,
nor, nor,
it is
nor. Handle her. Come on. Handle
it is
her.
Yeah.
April
Let's go.
Yeah.
22nd.
Let's
Nora's
go.
So
not
it is
addressing
April
anything
20.
that
It's
you're
Mute
Tuesday the
your
saying.
mic. Let
22nd.
Nora go.
Trump has been in office for approximately 90 fucking days. And you're saying like he's a complete disaster and this budget is a complete disaster. Do you think that budget is first of all going to be for the next 4 years? Like you really you're really criticizing Trump after 90 days and are making a complete like assessment of his performance of this term as a president based on 90 days of him being in office. And that is the most stupid fucking thing I've ever heard because Biden didn't
Hey.
do jack shit for
Let's
4
go.
fucking years. And nobody from the fucking Democratic Party has done jack shit for like at least a decade. And I haven't heard shit from you guys about it.
Yeah. You know what, guys? No, so I'm tell you something. I feel like I'm back up in Boston in between two white women in the bed again because this is I got Tara and Nora instead of
You
Cindy
wish. You wish, buddy.
instead of Cindy and Daphne. I got Tara and Nora. This is crazy. This
Oh
Hey
is
my
man,
crazy.
God.
this is a good
Inside
combination.
joke.
It's crazy. It's
This
crazy.
is a good combination. Listen, what I want to see when Miki is doing her attacks, right? I want Nora to jump in and just slam it. Nora and Miki would be viral. Viral. Put a thumbs up, guys, if you agree. Nora and Miki is
Nah.
viral content.
Your ass is
That's what I want
diabolical,
to see.
Nelson.
That's
I think
what
we
I
need
want to see.
teams.
Can
You're
we
Yeah.
just
diab-
say
you're
this
So
to
diabolical,
anyone else?
Nelson.
Oh, let's
What
do
do you say,
teams.
Grant?
Can I have
Can I just say
Skull though,
something
because
real
he's an
quick?
actual economist? I'd
Back
like
to
a
the
real
Trump thing.
economist on my side.
We
Back
want
to the Trump.
facts. We don't want content.
Can I just say one thing about Trump?
You love them.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
You guys that are saying Trump doesn't do this and doesn't do that, you're the same people that said he would not be the president of the United States of America after the 37 convictions.
34.
Well,
It
I
was at
didn't say
34
that,
convictions?
Grant.
After
I never
trying
said
to
that,
impeach
Grant.
him
Ask anyone.
twice
Okay,
and
but
bar
but
him from
most of
being
the people in this room, said, okay, he's done now.
I'm one of
Donald
the
Trump.
main ones attacking him, and I never said that, did I?
Thank you,
In fact,
Chair.
I said he
Okay,
was going to win,
Chair,
Grant.
Chair, I give you credit for that. You're right. 3 states tried to convict him. One state got away with it. 34 or 37 convictions. I'm not sure which number it was. It's one of the two. The
What's the
man's
third state, Grant, that tried to convict him?
he's president of the
What's the
United
third
States.
state, Grant? What is the
What
third? What
what
are the 3 states?
Georgia,
Yeah,
New York. What was the third
yeah.
state?
What is the
Arizona.
third state, Grant?
it was the federal government, but he
It
never
was a
went to
federal
trial.
case. Not
I'm
there were
sorry.
not 3 states. It's 2 states. You misspoke.
Two
Okay, fine.
states,
He
two
still
states,
owes
and the
New York
federal
a half a
government. Excuse
billion.
me. Let me just finish this. You guys have been counting this man out. You have been underestimating him for what, 12 years now? You didn't think he'd be the president. You know the election was stolen from him in 2020.
No, we don't.
You didn't think he'd be a president in
Oh my
2024.
God.
He is. You're underestimating him again. He knows exactly what he's doing. Nora's right, by the way. Nora's got more economist background in one pinky than the rest of you guys do in
What is
totality.
her economist
Let's
background? She
go.
went to a seminar. What else
Let's
does she have? Can we
go.
I
discuss
have an
it?
economics degree from UC.
Uh-huh.
I
Let's
didn't go to a
go.
That
seminar. I took International Monetary Economics, the course, the highest level course you can take as an undergraduate
Combined with a
in
legal degree,
Of
relationship
by the
to
way.
course.
economics
Of
at
course, you
UC
said.
Berkeley. What the fuck have you
A,
done?
a degree or a course? Those are
A course. She
two.
took a course. She
A
took a course.
degree, you
She said
dumb
no. She just
bitches.
said a degree.
So you went to law school, and then you okay.
Yes,
So you're an economist.
you can
You're an
actually
economist.
go to law school unless you have a bachelor's degree. So I
Okay.
have a bachelor's degree in economics from UC Berkeley.
All right. So tell us about this, and you're an
Jonathan,
attorney as
Jonathan,
If
well.
she was
Jonathan,
black,
Need a
if
bachelor's
she was
degree
Girl,
black,
in
look,
you guys would be
Wi-Fi.
treating her
Jonathan,
completely
Jonathan.
different.
I know you've never met a highly educated woman on the right like Nora before, so it's new
Yeah.
for you,
No.
my
No.
brother.
It's a
Bro.
Okay,
polymath vibe, a
Bro.
little.
I
Bro.
know it's a new
Bro.
thing for you, bro. So
Bro.
definitely take
I
it a little bit.
I've dealt with Nora, but that's not my fight right now. But once again, all right, guys. Welcome to Debate the News, guys. Wow. The wow edition of Debate. The Wow Edition. Corey, what's up, man? How you doing, Corey?
I'm trying out this camera thing, man. I got, by the way, I got a degree in economics too, right there. You see?
Let's go.
Anyways, I'm just having fun. Check out the camera here in my studio and enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, Corey. First of all, Brian, thanks for jumping up, man. I mean, you jumped in today. I mean, you jumped full, like all in, bro. So, Miki
I've been around
Miki's
for a
trying to take
while.
it. I've seen you around for a while, but Miki's about to take your head off.
That's okay. I've been around the Clubhouse days. I've known Nelson for quite a while, and you as well, back in the old days. And but I've been busy with building companies, to be honest. And I decided to come on tonight and just have some fun and check out Chatter again.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here, man. Let me give you a follow real fast, brother. All right, boom.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. I
Yeah.
have this beautiful production studio that I want to stream. We do a lot of fantasy show content, and I'm looking forward to the time when we can use Chatter as our social platform versus YouTube. So
Well, guess
that's what
what?
I'm waiting for.
That time's coming real soon, brother. Real soon.
I
And
mean, it's a full production studio
let me
here.
see what you got. What do you got there?
Corey, there's a lot of people in this room that would be great fantasy content because they spend every day in fantasy.
That's right.
That was mad
That's true.
exciting.
That's true.
Yes. So I'm not gonna hold it against you that you're conservative. All right, Corey, we're gonna rock out, man. Whenever you get in here, man.
That's my
Always feel
brother.
free. Always feel
I'm a
free.
libertarian. I'm
He's a
fiscally
conservative.
conservative, social republic. It's okay, man.
So feel free to jump up at any time you get ready, man, on camera, man, because we'll be rocking out, man, every night because we're about to go V2. And yeah, man, we're rocking out, man. Nelson, Grant, myself, all of us, man, we're gonna be rocking out. Cindy's here, guys. We're gonna be rocking out hard. So
But
100%.
Jonathan, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Do
what's
you
that?
do you feel like the show got better today because more conservatives are active?
No, this show is always excellent, Nelson. It's always
But
no.
tonight's fire.
I love the fire. I love the fire
It's
tonight.
content tonight.
What
Yeah,
time did y'all
I love
start
the
tonight,
fire.
Jonathan? What time did
Actually,
y'all
we started at 8:30. Grant, we was waiting 8:40, and we
You don't,
wait, and then I was like, you know what?
you don't
I'm
wait
not
on
gonna wait.
nobody,
Moving on,
bro.
Grant.
You don't wait on nobody, bro. The show is the show.
Did you
The
guys
show
just
must
clock it?
go on, dude. You wait on no one.
Yeah, you're
Grant,
right. You know,
No one's
Grant.
here,
Hold on, Grant. Let me just say something,
Jonathan. If
Grant.
no one's here, you start
Yeah,
the show.
Grant, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna tell you something, Grant, because I figure, yeah, we can do the dateline throughout the show. We don't have to do it at the beginning. You're right about that, and you know,
Right?
Grant. And so I felt so good ending that show so early last night and going ahead and doing what I was like, man, this felt fucking good. Excuse me, freaking good, you know. And no, 100%. So we did start a lot earlier tonight, and we're gonna start at 8 p.m. tomorrow, you know, because it just it felt right, you know. So and it took a lot of stress off me actually because I'm usually up
But
late.
Jonathan, that's Eastern, right? That's Eastern, right?
Eastern Standard
Eastern,
Time.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Eastern.
And Grant was late.
Daphne, what are you? I thought you left when they started talking about the bedroom incident.
No, I went to change clothes. I had to go. I
Okay.
was cold. I was freezing.
Oh, okay,
I was
okay,
freezing.
He got
okay.
so
I had to get my bow
excited he
on.
had to change clothes,
Show number
Jonathan.
2. I thought we were getting a little feisty tonight. Corey came up. We're gonna do the damn thing. Come on, V2, let's go.
man, Tira, she must have a lot of clothes.
Daphne. Nah, I thought she got
Daphne's got a
mad.
whole wardrobe.
I thought she got mad because Cindy was like, "Yo, I was in the bed with Jonathan and Daphne." I thought she got
No, everybody can have a fantasy.
nah, guys. Cindy's good people, guys. I love Cindy. You know, and Daphne, guys, we have fun when we hang out, guys. If you guys get to know Cindy, get to know Cindy. Cindy's one of the most generous and fun people to hang out, man. She's crazy as hell. And yeah, you're gonna have a lot of fun hanging out with Cindy. Grant too. Grant's crazy as hell too. Grant's the same way he is off stage. That he is on stage. So if you don't want to be clowning whatever, don't. You know, Grant's been good. He actually, I'm doing him a disservice. Grant's been great to the Million Marathon crew since day one. Nelson, myself, Jerry. You know, all of us. You know, and he's actually been our biggest supporter.
This is exactly what gay men sound like right here.
That's a fact.
Yeah, and he's been our biggest supporter, and he's been our biggest.
That's a
Yeah,
fact.
but he has, guys. So Grant and I go at it, guys.
Smack them
But
lips.
but but we're
Smack
on a
them
bet.
lips.
Well, but guys, once again, but yeah. So Grant Cardone is Million Marathon and Debate the News, folks. Just wanted to put that out there, guys. Got to give that man his due and his respect because without him, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Yvonne's throwing up.
Regular
Yvonne
degular.
actually love you, Grant. She actually love you.
She loves me too.
That is such bullshit, bro. Auntie Yvonne don't like Grant.
Come on, man.
Panda.
I'm trying to
Come
bridge
on.
the gap. You see what I'm saying, Corey? I'm trying to bridge the gap here, Corey.
Let's keep it real, man. Come on. But anyways, let's get back to the content, man.
Let's
Let's
get
get back
back
to the
to it.
content. I
Absolutely.
just want to say this, Mr. Bing. Listen, there's so many people criticizing Trump. Here's the deal: it's too early, way too early. Okay, this man came to change things. He didn't come to just glide and just roll with the times or whatever the case may be. He's making some hard corrections, and we're gonna feel some impact, which we're feeling right now, right? But only time will tell if those moves were actually great. You can't. I mean, dude, it's way too early to make a call right now, right? It's way too early. It's way too early. Listen, you have something going in a straight line, okay? You pivot at 90 degrees, okay? There's going to be some impact, period. Okay? We just need to see if that 90-degree turn long term will benefit America and all Americans.
He's
It's
fixing 50 years of bad deals, Nelson.
Scope, can you jump in? Scold and Tira, can you guys jump in and handle this? Because I've been handling some other
It's not
things.
Scold, bro. His name is Scald.
It's Scold, bro. He told me
Yeah,
Scold.
it's Scald. Yeah.
It's Scald. It's not Scold.
you see, Jonathan, you
Yeah.
Your daughter
can't even
scolds
It's
you. I
pronounce
Scald.
it.
scold you.
Okay.
But
Uh,
what needs what are we talking about? I mean, like, are we still on the inflation thing? Are we talking
Do you
about?
need notes? Do you need us to send you notes?
no,
No, I
no,
mean,
no. Nelson talking about give this man 90 days. He has 90
Let me ask
days.
him a
I
Nelson,
question.
mean,
good.
I mean,
Scald,
here's yes.
let me ask you a question. Do you agree that it's way too early to call the end result of everything Donald Trump is doing right now?
Well, I think that on one hand, we don't know the end result, of course, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that there is the same thing that many people voted for, which was someone who would engage in radical change and dramatic change. He doesn't get the pass that Sleepy Joe got, right? Because it's like, well, he didn't do shit in the first 100 days. Trump's out here doing dramatic actions every day, massive action every day. So I think it's fair to start criticizing him earlier. But I don't know if we know the result yet. That's where I'll land on that.
Okay, now Scald, you're a betting man. You play the markets every day or every other day, right? If someone were to say, well, you know what? Let me ask you this question. I'll lead to my next question. Do you think he's doing a shit job as of today? Yes or no? Just yes or no. No long story.
On the tariff policy specifically, I just don't understand the goals, right? And that's what I don't understand. And I think, Japan saying that they don't understand either, right? What they're even negotiating for. This has objectively been done, I think, poorly. I just don't understand what's happening here, and it seems to be that
How
other
can you
people don't
not?
either.
How can you not understand what's happening when it's clear what is happening? He's bringing people to the table to negotiate better deals for the American people. He made that very clear. He said it for 34 years. Why do you guys think that he is somehow knee jerking? He has said it since what, 1980, 1990? Guys, this is not a surprise.
Well, I hope he's not executing on a plan that's 40 years old. I mean, that would
Well,
be very bad.
no, he is. He is executing on a plan that should never have happened to this country. He has consistently said for 40 years, we need to undo our tariffs. They're bad for America. We gutted our manufacturing. We gutted the middle class. We gutted the working class. We depend on other countries for almost everything. We don't make furniture in this country anymore. We have a trade deal with Canada. We're paying them $200 billion a year on products that we produce right here in America. It's insanity. And Scott, when you say you don't know what he's doing, I don't understand, dude. He's been very transparent about what he's doing.
So Grant, how did China and Mexico strong arm U.S. companies into offshoring manufacturing? How did they accomplish that?
Through
The Democrats.
Congress and Senate.
No, it's actually more
No,
that they manipulated their currency to devalue it to make their goods remarkably cheaper in comparison to United States good. And they also nobody knows what wages are in China. Good luck trying to figure them out. But basically, they're paying. It was easier for corporations in the United States to outsource labor to manufacturing in China because they didn't have pollution. They don't have the same pollution regulations, and they don't have the same labor laws, and they don't have the same labor safety laws. They don't have OSHA. They don't have NEPA, which is the National Environmental Protection Act. They don't have an Air Quality Act. If you've ever been to China, the pollution is lung choking. Before the Olympics, they literally had to shut down all of the factories for 6 months prior, just so that when the athletes came, they wouldn't get sick from the poor air quality. And yeah, they instead of having what's called a floating exchange rate, which we have, although we do by using monetary policy like interest rates and fiscal policy with spending, that's how we influence the strength of the dollar. China purposely devalued their currency in order to make it so that their goods and services seemed remarkably cheap relative, and the dollar was seemed extremely strong as in terms of purchasing power for Chinese goods for a really long time, which is not sustainable policy for them. That's why I said they really don't have that much leverage because they can't keep it up forever, and neither can we. So something had to change. I don't know what you guys suggest that we do instead. If you think we're going to keep doing this dance with China and just outsource our pollution and you just want slave labor, prices, and you want to outsource the pollution to China and pay for slave labor, and you think tariffs are a terrible idea, I'd like to hear your fucking solutions.
yeah. Let me just say this, man, because you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
keep,
going to
you
go
guys keep
ahead.
one second, one second, Skull,
Oh,
Skull, one second, because you guys keep talking about China, China, China. He put tariffs on 187 different countries, okay, and he meant that shit. He meant that shit. And don't sit here and say this is a plan. This was not a plan. Okay. When he paused those tariffs, because guess what? Because Peter Navarro had a meeting and in the other part of the White House, okay, and Ludwig and Bessent actually snuck into the White House, snuck into the Oval Office, okay, on an unscheduled meeting, and they told him, you have to pause these. If you don't pause this shit right now, we're going to go into a spiral that we may not be able to recover from, okay, because the yield is going so far, going up so fast, and they did not expect that. And they convinced him in about 20 minutes to do that. And they stayed in that office. And this is reported in the Wall Street Journal by multiple sources, verified by multiple sources. They stayed in that office until he did a True Social post. And then once they got the True Social post, Bessent grabbed the press secretary and ran out to the White House lawn and in front of the cameras and announced it before Navarro can come in and change his mind. That was not a plan. That's chaos. So go ahead, Skull. I just want to put that out there because everyone's talking about China, China, China. This was not about China. He stayed with China, okay, because guess what? China reacted. But this was not about China. This guy tariffed the whole world is what he did. Skull, go ahead. You wanted to respond? Go ahead.
yeah, no, a lot of actually almost everything Nora said there, I 100% agree with in its entirety, and it's almost entirely factual. And that's the problem, right? The fact that they don't have pollution laws, and the fact that it is like the air is choking over there, and the fact that they don't have environmental safety, and they're poisoning themselves and their land and their the people around them. The fact that it's estimated that 300 million Chinese may live on less than $2 a day. Now that number has declined, but certainly when we were outsourcing in the 90s and early 2000s, that number was true to the number. And so all of these things together tell you the exact kind of jobs we're fighting to get back. These are the lowest paying jobs imaginable, the most brutal jobs imaginable, the most heavily polluting jobs imaginable. Why do we want this to return to our shores? I understand if we targeted the advanced manufacturing, and I agree. Some of that is in China. There is certainly some advanced manufacturing. I would love for to see us claw back and employ Americans in highly technical industries, in well regulated industries, in well paying industries that require skill, right? But I don't want to see these other industries that pay garbage prices and have to pay garbage prices because they're such small margin products that are also heavily polluting. I don't want to see that come back to our shores. That's not helpful for our land, for our waterways, or for our people. And so that's where I say I don't understand the strategy. I get clawing back the high paying manufacturing jobs. Let's get those back. The rest of those shit jobs, like, if China doesn't want them anymore, let's find somewhere else to send them because I sure as hell don't want them here. Anyway, I land.
All
Steve,
right.
this is where my position varies. I think that this is where this challenge that Trump is giving us, and I'm up for it too because I went into manufacturing, is innovation. This is where we bring in automation and we bring advanced manufacturing techniques to eliminate the a lot of the pollution. We can produce things a lot more sustainably. Like, I'm pretty into the hard tech manufacturing scene, like the use of CNC machines, and I use CO2 industrial lasers and computer aided drafting. I'm actually giving a seminar for and drawing for industrial design, a Peter Thiel summit for a group of teenagers who want to go into manufacturing and want to build factories. And guess what? Those jobs weren't low paying. They weren't shit jobs. We used to have unions. Those blue collar jobs were union jobs, especially those automaker jobs. Those jobs had healthcare benefits. They
They're not coming back.
middle.
Yeah, but
But Trump doesn't want unions. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, right?
and those
Yeah.
auto worker jobs never left. I mean, we still have a very robust automotive industry here in America.
Yeah.
No,
Somebody
no,
help her pour
you're in a matrix. But I'm surprised that there's not an observation for the national security implications that exist between the United States and China. And what we're trying to do is decouple from China. Our dependency on China is so heavy that if there was an international conflict or something that disrupted international trade routes and international waters, our country is at a massive national security threat. Large percentage of our pharmaceuticals, our medical supplies, things that we depended on during COVID, like ventilators, they were shipped in from China. Okay. In addition to that, you have a lot of things that the Chinese provide, such as rare earth minerals. We can't get that from the US, but this is an extreme national security threat in the event that there is some sort of national security issue and we cannot no longer rely on China for our pharmaceuticals, the old people that rely on these things for life-saving medications. If that industry doesn't come back to the US, where are we going to get it from? Our aluminum and our steel, when it's time to build and basically erect a military industrialization for some sort of threat that could possibly pop off, we're dependent on China for our steel and our aluminum. These are problems of national security import, and Donald Trump has recognized that, which is why he's made it a large priority in his administration to decouple from China. America has been too reliant and dependent on China for our international trade and core dependencies that we have in this country. And that's created a problem. Trump's not the only person to make this observation. Both Democratic and Republican administrations in the past, Obama included, have criticized Americans' dependency on China. So, Scold, I know you're saying it's hard for you to understand what the outcome is of Trump's trade policy, particularly with China. But when you look at the implications of what type of exposure America is at, if we had an international crisis, you would understand that this is a very necessary move to decouple from China and create more dependency on our own production, our own manufacturing base, as opposed to relying on China.
So, I mean, everything you just said, metallurgy, we do still have American metallurgy here. We got CLF, we got Nucor, we've got U.S. Steel. We could certainly bolster those industries. I do agree. Pharmaceuticals, right? That requires a lot of analytical chemists. right? That requires a bunch of, pharmacy, doctorates and things like that. And that's highly skilled manufacturing. Just look at the Milan plant in West Virginia where we shut it down, sent it over there. Now, credit to Manchin, the senator from that state, fought very hard. He's a Republican, but he fought incredibly hard. And I give credit where credit's due. He did a
Manchin
great
was a
job
Democrat.
repurposing.
Yeah, Manchin was a Democrat.
Was he a Democrat? He's independent now, right?
No,
But he
no,
was a
no.
No, no,
He was
no, no,
always
he's
an
not.
independent.
The,
He was
no,
always an independent.
he
He
was
was
a
just
Manson is a
caucused with the
Democrat.
Democrat,
Democrats.
always a Democrat, always a Democrat,
No,
always a
he wasn't a
Democrat.
Democrat. He wasn't a Democrat. He would
Okay,
caucus
okay,
with the Democrats.
okay.
I
Listen to
think
me.
he's an independent now. Anyway,
No,
sorry to throw that in there, folks, but these are the kind of high skilled jobs that I agree with. And you know what? I agree with you. Decoupling from China for a strategic region is great. But here's the thing, tell me this. Why didn't we just tariff pharmaceuticals? Why didn't we just tariff aluminum or steel or whatever other industry you specifically imagine that we want to claw back from China? Why didn't we do that? Because we're a bunch of random people chatting here, and we can even imagine the kind of industries that we want to get back. Even we can come up with a target list. Firstly, why did we hit everything? And secondly, why did we tariff 183 other countries if we're going to decouple from China? Wouldn't it be better to start a good conversation with them instead of slapping all of them in the face to start it? So again, this is where I'm saying, like, I don't see a strategy here. I don't see a clear strategy. I understand what you guys are saying the goals are. I don't hear, I don't see that being executed, folks. And that's my concern.
Look, let me give you an idea of why it's necessary. I don't know why it's necessary to tariff the entire world, but why it's necessary to at least have broad facing tariffs. My example that I'll use is a Trans-Pacific Partnership. As that was coming into play, we were basically going to have free trade with Vietnam, and that was basically our leverage against China. Because guess what China did? All China did was start building factories in Vietnam that they owned, and then they were going to take Chinese raw materials, make them in Vietnam, and then use the Trans-Pacific Partnership to subvert tariffs and continue to export goods into the United States. And that's what China will do with every country that's not tariffed. So unless we have and they have done that actually, and they still do that actually with Vietnam. Vietnam doesn't have Vietnam does a lot of our they make like a lot of our furniture. They make a lot of our shoes. They do a lot of our advanced textile work. But all of those textiles come from, and the raw materials come from China because they don't have the ability to produce them in Vietnam. But the labor is done in Vietnam. So that's part of decoupling from China. Also requires us to set up broad rules with other countries that will not allow China to subvert the supply chain in order to maintain their favorable relationship when they refuse to be part of the World Trade Organization and participate in negotiations and continue to steal intellectual property from the United States and every other country that they manufacture for.
I'm glad you brought up the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is one of the major reasons that I voted against Hillary Clinton and for Donald Trump in the 2016 election. And the reason why I voted against her on this was it was rooted in, if you listen to Clinton speak about this, it was rooted in the idea that China was democratizing. And it appears that Hillary Clinton did not understand that Xi had appointed himself as president for life and the democratization of China had ended. And they now had a dictator and were steering in a completely different direction. And yet she was going headlong with this older idea of this Trans-Pacific Partnership to even farther outsource things to China and even farther commit to a binding of our two nations. And I just thought
To the
that was a
benefit of
bad
China, by the
plan.
way,
But
because then they would
here's the
subvert
thing.
existing tariffs and
Right.
customs and duties.
And here's the thing. That was because she was predicating her policy on stuff that was true 20, 30 years ago. And I'm just looking at Trump's tariffs. I'm seeing a policy that would have been great 20 or 30 years ago. I'm not seeing a policy that's great in 2025. And I think some of these goals, again, I agree with some of the goals. I just don't see the strategy materializing to actually achieve what he's talking about. It's very unclear to me. And I
Well, so
understand that
can
maybe you guys who are on True Social every day have been like read into this a little bit differently than I have. Like maybe you've heard it explained differently, but to like a lot
They've
of
been
us, and
indoctrinated. They've been
certainly to foreign
indoctrinated.
countries, they have no fucking clue what's happening right now, guys. And we're seeing that reflected in the stock market and in bonds every day right now. I
Well,
land.
well, Scald, I think what you're doing is you're limiting your perspective to tariff-related policies. What you have to understand is the reason why the broad tariffs on a lot of these countries that we would consider to be fairly amicable trade partners is because you had non-tariff related trade barriers that existed, and it was compromising America's ability to have trade relation, at least on par trade relationship with some of our trade partners, which is why we had trade deficits. And people are thinking, well, hey, America's one of the largest buyers in the world, the largest buyer in the world. It would make sense that you would have trade deficits, but that's not exactly true. A lot of our trade partners, China being the main one, obviously, she talked about manipulated currency. We talk about the fact that they require certain espionage activities with some of our tech products that are in China. That limits our ability to trade with China. But even the EU have non-tariff related trade barriers that stop American goods from coming into their country. One specifically, I'm in the alcohol business. I have a liquor license. I purchase alcohol from my suppliers, and they typically come from Europe. Obviously, Paris, champagne, Parmesan cheese. These are things that the EU will not allow there to be reciprocal trade from the US to the EU. What that means is that we can import champagne, but we cannot export champagne to Europe. Same thing with Parmesan cheese. So again, these are some examples of non-tariff related trade barriers that creates a trade deficit with these countries. Again, that inhibits our ability to engage in economic commerce and make us more prosperous. You would expect
Wake
for
it
executives
up.
to take you would expect an executive to take advantage of this now while he has the time and the attention of the whole world and create a shock and awe strategy that will force them to the negotiating table. And now they're ready to give concessions when they previously thought they could take advantage of America.
Well, I think the problem that we are not facing here is
Finally,
that
some sense.
yeah, the problem that what we are not facing here is that we seem to not recognize that the trade imbalance that we are all complaining about are all self-inflicted, and you need a leader that will come in and handle the problem domestically. I heard somebody mentioning correctly here that United States does not have rare earth minerals. US has one of the largest deposits of rare earth minerals. But the reason why you're going to China is because of your corporate greed. Because it's much more easier to get it from China than you harvesting and exploring the one that you have domestically. Nobody is forcing you to buy cheap Chinese products that you could manufacture in America. And you cannot dismantle that by shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, but
Last
you
call
also
just let me finish.
finish it for.
Last call just mentioned there is no coherent grand strategy coming out of then. All you're seeing is debacle. You need a leader. I hope that Trump will get his act together and try to unite United States of America, fix our problem domestically, focus on the industries that you need to develop and harness domestically. Encourage those industries to thrive within United States of America. You have to solve this thing internally. You have to address our voracious appetite for cheap product that endangers national security. China has little to do with it. Yes, I grant it to you that they engage in unfair trade practices, but we allow that to happen. But what we are doing now is inadvertently destroying the amount of achievement that America has made in the international stage, wearing that American influence, American reach, and we are jeopardizing the security of America by alienating our allies in the process. I don't see any coherent national security interest in what he's doing. But I land with that for now.
Bro, like, you know, shout out to the other brother who was making sense. Um, I don't really got much to say, man. I think everybody's gonna have their opinion. I don't think if you really, it's when I'm hearing Sir Jew, shout out to you, brother. That he's speaking now, and it's almost as if people are blaming Trump for America's fucking, ferocious appetite for cheap goods. But like, what? No, blame the boomers who shipped off the jobs to China. Like, what are you talking about, bro? You know, blame the billionaires who are losing money today that the Democrats seem to be, saying that they want to be against, because a lot of MAGA Republicans are against them. You should actually just listen to them speak. They don't like the big corporations. The MAGA party is made up of working class people. They don't really care if the millionaires and the billionaires lose out. Yeah, it's a bit shit for those with the 401ks. Okay, yeah, granted. But they're trying to save the future of America, the nation you call America, for their children's children's children. So this idea that you need to curb the enthusiasm of the American market's ferocious appetite for cheap goods, maybe, or lower taxes, allow more people to have more money, allow corporations to keep more of their money and thus invest it in America, build infrastructure, open up more manufacturing. You keep the dollar in and on, you keep it stateside, as opposed to allowing illegal immigrants to send it home and allowing China to fucking use your dollar to then build up their. Like, what are you talking about? That is the plan. It's obvious. But again, what do I know? I'm just an observer of common sense.
Yeah, so TC and Nora had made some great points embedded in there. Augustus, my friend, I'm sorry. That was almost incoherent. I have no idea what you're talking about, bro.
Yeah, but
Everybody
that's
else
because
discussed great
that's
points.
because you're a piece of shit, bro. I
Great
was I was
points.
I was speaking
So,
English, but thanks.
well, I mean,
Good,
okay.
good, good, good try. Good try.
No, I
Good try.
just, I literally
Good
don't
try. Good
understand
try. Good
how
try.
that translates to a trade policy or
Good
tariffs
try.
or economic analysis. Like, it's not even.
Okay.
I don't get it.
But it's because you're just a weak man. Like, it's obvious what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything crazy. I was bigging up the person that was speaking to before, that was speaking before, and I was echoing exactly what common sense dictates. You're not a MAGA supporter, obviously. I said clearly that the Democrats used to rail are used to railing against the billionaires and the millionaires, and now the millionaires and the billionaires are losing money. I don't know how hard that is for you to understand. Like, what are you talking about? You're trying to
Augustus,
be
I'm not
sharp.
really worried about this like overweight neckbeard loser douchebag. So like, you don't need to
Yeah.
like. I don't
No,
know why
it's
you're
it's all
playing.
good, man. No, I just woke up to hear this fucking mess. Try to get some cheap laughs, but nobody cares, bro.
Well,
That's all.
I don't know
Go for
what
it. Go
Nora's
for it,
throwing
buddy.
shade on me. She actually had some decent points about the history of China in there and the history of outsourcing. And then you come in with this fictionalized story about how things are the way they are. Whereas, Nora,
What was fictional?
even though
What
she
was
may have
fictional?
just insulted me a moment ago,
Sure. What was fictional?
was actually giving a truthful accounting as
What
to
was
why
fictional?
things are the way that they
Name three
currently
things that
are.
were fictional. Name three things that were fictional. Go on.
Oh, so you're saying that the
I,
jobs went
I
away
just
because we were enriching our billionaires? Like, what does that even
So
mean?
I never said that.
Augustus
Like,
actually
I never
brought
said that.
you're trying
up
to
a really
say what was it?
I
Like
never said
we
that.
needed. Yeah, I mean,
You're lying.
I didn't even follow it.
Oh,
I
you're
didn't even
lying.
follow it, to be
You
honest.
exactly, because you're retarded. So don't if you can't comprehend,
We don't
mistake what
use
I'm
that word
saying.
here. We don't use that
Well,
word here.
Okay, can I can I say
what are you
fucking
trying to
retarded or just
communicate,
retarded?
Augustus? Let's try
Bro,
to get
bro,
it
bro,
down
bro,
to
bro. I
a
tell you
brief
I tell you what it
One
topic.
mic,
is.
one.
I tell you what it is. You're exposing yourself.
Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't use the R word.
My
Out
my
of
my
respect,
bad.
out of respect for people that's mentally challenged. Thank you.
Okay.
Augustus,
So
can you complete my poll, please, and everybody else too? Thank you very much.
I'm good. But no, again, but you didn't hear what I was saying. You made up some stuff only to then try to get a little cheap laugh because you're playing to the crowd. Look, stick to the points that you're making, and leave keep my name out your mouth, and you might do good and well in life. Okay?
Augustus, what's your point, bro? You've still not made a point. I've asked you to
No,
make a
bro.
point. Can you make
But
it?
dude.
Like,
I'm gonna go on
explain it
mute.
in 2 sentences, three
I'm
sentences.
gonna no. You're
Just real quick.
losing now. You're losing. Even look, we can all see you're losing, bro. It's actually quite hilarious.
No, I'm the one asking you to explain your point, bro.
Whatever, bro.
You
You never heard it. You just tried to get some cheap laughs. You thought Augustus is here, the British man. I'm gonna try and clown him, and you clowned yourself because you didn't hear what I said, only to then regurgitate it and make out as if I'm talking shit. But it's all good, bro. We all see you for who you are, bro. It's all good.
Augustus, I heard one thing that you said, and I want to know, you asked specifically, or you said specifically, the United States has the rare earth minerals needed to manufacture and produce a lot of the goods that we're currently importing. So where are those
I never
located?
said that either. What is happening to you
That
people?
was
I never said.
Jude. That was so Jude.
Jesus. Black people saying the same. I'm playing. That was a joke. That was a
No,
joke.
that's
Yo,
all good. I
Bro,
really thought that you said that, like that you had said mentioned that, but no,
Nah,
I
it's
mean,
all, I never said that, bro.
okay,
It's all
yeah.
good.
So I think in the essence of what Trump and his tariffs against everybody, one thing that we potentially could throw out there, that if in the event that we're asking or we're forcing the rest of the world to unpeg from the dollar as we know it, and we know that Trump is a huge advocate of digital currencies, could Trump be leading us through some type of a natural reset that potentially could occur where we're forcing other countries to come to the realization that it's time to unpeg from the dollar because we're going to be flipping our monetary system through a default mechanism that's not going to be labeled a bankruptcy, but a systematic approach to change the monetary system here in the United States away from the dollar and more to a digital currency. Could that potentially lead to that happening where we're actually asking, forcing other companies to uncouple from the dollar in order to have that? Because right now the path that the dollar's on, it's unsustainable in terms of the debt. And you can't just go out there and say it that, hey, we're defaulting on the dollar, we're defaulting on our currency. You just can't label it that. But could you force that majeure by forcing other countries to unpeg from the dollar, which is currently happening? One of the major reasons why we saw a lot of yields, rising, a lot of bonds and treasuries being sold wasn't necessarily because of China. It was actually because of Europe was doing that when Trump wasn't willing to escalate things with Russia and Ukraine. We saw a lot of that happening. So we could be just really witnessing a systematic approach to reset things here in the United States away from the dollar and systematically approaching it a little bit differently. And that's why we have the major tariffs being launched against everyone, because we're kind of forcing them to unpeg away from the
Carlos,
dollar.
let me ask you a question on that. Let me ask you a question on that. I hear what you're saying, but how do you see that as serving the short term interests of America? Like, if you guys are so convinced that Donald Trump is so short sighted, help me understand how that creates a motivator for Trump to engage in that type of subterfuge of the US dollar.
Well, I think Trump has been a big proponent of alternative currencies. He's been, talking about Bitcoin, about a Bitcoin reserve. That there is a need to systematically move away from the dollar, and I think because he inevitably sees the writing on the wall that there is a process of when we approach things the way that we are as far as the United States in terms of our debt level and being able to service that debt in terms of the rates that
Wait.
a
But here's what I'm following you. But here's what I'm asking you. Right? You're saying that maybe Trump has this clandestine effort underway to essentially uh, to cut under the knees the U.S. dollar to prop up digital decentralized currency. How does that help America? Is what I'm asking you. Like, what are the short term benefits to creating such a crazy cockamamie? Like, where did you get that from?
just looking at the amount of public and private debt that's being carried by not only Americans, by government, by corporations. The debt level that's there is becoming unsustainable, long term to satisfy that debt. And inevitably, there needs to be some type of reset some type
So
of
America
banking.
would give up its dominance in controlling controlling international markets and trade currencies to a decentralized monetary system, and that's in the benefits or that's in the interest of America or Donald Trump.
I think that potentially could force a lot of U.S. manufacturers to get aggressively engaged in manufacturing and sourcing here in the United States versus being able to offshore labor, being able to offshore manufacturing capacity when they no longer can
That
leverage the
it
dollar
doesn't
as
do
a
any of
base.
that. Most of the countries that we engage in trade with, a large percentage of the countries we engage in trade with, they don't even have a credit card system that they rely on. As a lot of it is still a cash system. They're not even using digital methods of currency. So I mean, I think I'm just curious. Like, I don't understand how you got there. That's a huge leap to suggest that America is going to give up its most dominant force of controlling international commerce and say, yeah, we're going to just go ahead and hand that over to a decentralized currency and we're going to gamble with that. And so for those reasons, we're just going to compromise all of our leverage that we have on international trade in the effort to basically, just completely like do away with our currency and in favor of a decentralized
Well,
currency.
I don't know. That's a very legitimate question, and I'll be honest, I don't have that answer. But I'm speaking in the terms of corporations, in terms of the United States being able to essentially write that debt off, not necessarily a debt jubilee, but the ability to say, hey, look, we've came to the realization that these debts we're not going to be able to satisfy our debt. We're not going to be able to satisfy public private sector debt, and so therefore we need to force and change to a new monetary system that's outside of the Federal Reserve and control it more systematically with the new approach to what's evolving with technology. And hence the reason why we have the Peter Thiels, we have a lot of these tech oligarchs that are involved with the government currently, is to kind of envision. I'm talking more of a long play. I'm not talking 4 or 8 years down the road. I'm talking 25, 30 years down the road of realization, because a lot of people are speculating like that, for example, that China wants to be the world reserve currency. China does not want to be the world reserve currency. I don't think any country wants to do that, because if you look at the history of reserve currencies, they eventually all fall, right? In the United States is 50, 60 years plus that time of that natural reset. Unfortunately, every time that happens with a natural switch in world reserve currency, there's usually a war, something that happens with that. And I think that's what we're up against. And so, what better way of trying to force a non-militarized world war other than and that forcing the rest of the world to unpeg, from the dollar as the United States leads through this
Well,
Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
absent taking that leap of like this nefarious intent that I think you're referring to the I believe it's referred to as, it's basically a feudal techno state type situation where the tech oligarchs get to take over the world. Besides, jumping that far, I do agree. And again, I'm very limited when it comes to cryptocurrencies and things like that. That's not my main area. I try and stay between business and politics, but and law. But I can see where the argument can be made that America's taken a long-term play on cryptocurrency being the major trade currency of the world in the next 25 years, because America's just purchased, I think America holds roughly over 200,000 Bitcoin right now. And I just read recently that it represents the largest state holder of Bitcoin in the world. That America owns more Bitcoin than any other state. So that's pretty remarkable when you consider the fact that America's making bets that's 25 years down the line. Considering America typically doesn't do anything in its long-term interests. On that, I would agree, but
Well,
not this
literally, you
like
could literally
nefarious.
you could rehypothecate everything from physical assets to digital assets. So corporations would have the ability to switch from traditional shares of corporations into micro shares, digitalized from digital assets, homes, infrastructure, a whole new monetary system that could be realized. And I'm not saying this is Trump's big play. I've been very critical of Trump ever through this. But when you look at the tariff everyone scenario, it's forcing a lot of countries to reassess their holdings in U.S. Treasuries, their value in buying, U.S. goods, and I'll land it here. What better way to really kind of force the hand of U.S. manufacturers is saying, "Hey, we really need to start reinvesting," and here's a tool to do it. Now we're going to be able to rid your debt that you're carrying as far as a corporation. You have no excuse other than to move monetary and financial manufacturing here in the United States. The challenge that becomes with that is that how do you source whether it's rare earth minerals or manufacturing capacity to do it. So I'm not saying that's a genius play out there, but I don't think there's any other way to really identify what's happening in terms of potentially the United States becoming very isolated as a result of these tariffs. And I'll end it there.
Hello.
Hello?
I was just making sure because there was just dead air there. But no, I agree with this. And central bank digital currencies already been explored. The Federal Reserve did a pilot program exploring central bank digital currencies. This would basically be a crypto, except it would be issued by the US government, right? So, we wouldn't be reliant on Bitcoin or something else. We would be using a lot of the, same science, right? And a lot of the same technology, but we would be the issuers. And so, they did that pilot program in 2021 and it was pretty favorably received in 2022. And you can also find some articles in 2023. The U.S. Treasury, also did their own independent study of creating a central bank digital currency. And there are some pretty cool possibilities here for some of the stuff that you can do with this kind of technology. Like for example, if you just put a 10% transaction fee on everything, that would be lower than everybody's current tax rate. It would actually net the United States more than we're currently raising in taxes, right? And the entire process would be automated, and you wouldn't need, 80,000 IRS agents or whatever the heck, right? It would just happen. And, so I mean, there's a lot of benefits to this. There are, maybe a little bit of privacy concerns because it would, depending on how it's structured and the exact type of, crypto model we duplicate, there could be some privacy concerns. But those are addressable. So I mean, I think it's a pretty interesting possibility, and I think it's Trump and his administration leaning into crypto. Overall, I think it's a very good thing.
I have a
There's a difference
question.
between CBDCs and stablecoins. I am so against CBDCs. I do not want every transaction I ever do be tracked and put on a blockchain.
They already track every transaction, unfortunately, digitally in the current banking system.
No, I agree, Corey, and that's why I wouldn't want it. A little bit more pseudo anonymity, and you are well aware, I'm sure, that there are some more private chains than others. So again, the devil's in the details here, right? And I do think that if we had, say, implemented something like, say, Bitcoin, but as a central bank digital currency, I think that would actually violate the Fourth Amendment, right? Because it would almost be the same as a perpetual warrant. Because in that model, the US government could see everyone's transactions at all time forever on a public ledger. And that's basically like a perpetual warrant that the British were trying to enforce on the American colonies. I mean, it's a high tech version of it, right? But it's almost the same exact thing. And I agree with you there, Corey, with
Yeah,
certainly huge concerns.
and things around, well, at least with fiat cash, they can't freeze that. With the coin, at the token level, the digital currency level, they can literally freeze you from ever spending or moving any of your value. And so I'm very hesitant about giving that level of control. And hopefully, from what I heard, is Trump's against CBDCs, but he's okay with like Circle or a stable coin that's issued by the U.S., where they don't necessarily can prevent you from sending your currency from one person to another or spending it. And otherwise, you pretty much have government control over all your assets and value. I mean, to a very micro level. And the problem, guys, is the fact that they can collect this data so quickly. Yes, they have credit cards. Yes, everything but like 5% is M2. Basically, it's all digital. But still, the level of microtransactions are all in different databases. So having to get a bank and a credit card to work together to give the government exact information is harder than you think, versus it being on a single ledger blockchain, which is all very accessible, and they can pretty much say, you know what, your current value is frozen. You can't spend it anywhere, and I just don't want that capability.
I agree. Chat, you were trying to jump in. Sorry. What's up?
Oh, me?
Yeah, yeah, chat. You're allowed.
Me? Okay, let me. But my real question is, because I don't know if we ever talked about Pete, but before we get to Pete, my real question is like, so today when I did the Dateline, because you were late, they were saying that or I read, right, but that crypto, like the markets were down, but people are now moving over to crypto way more, right, because of the markets, because of the volatility in the markets. Like before, a couple of years ago, crypto was not the alternative. Crypto, like, so how is that, how does that change our economy, our national and global economy today, that people have an alternative besides the same old market, gold, treasury bonds, and all that? Now there's another player. How does that change the landscape, or does it?
Well, typically from throughout most of its trading period, Bitcoin has been pretty heavily correlated with the Nasdaq. In fact, it'll spend years trading in a high correlation with basically technology stocks, right? So if tech is doing well, Bitcoin is doing well. Obviously, it decorrelates at certain times, right? It doesn't always move in line with the market. And right now, we're starting to see a decorrelation positive for Bitcoin while the market is going down. And what I think the driver is here is we've seen money leaving the market, right? We've seen money getting out of stocks and going into cash. We've seen some money going into bonds, but we've also seen some money going to other countries, right? We've seen people moving into investments in developing nations, into China and into Europe, as well as into crypto. And the way I read that is people are just hedging their bets in this trade war, right? They want to make sure that no matter who wins, they still have their money. That's just the way I'm reading it. It certainly seems
I
to be that it's a little bit of a hedge there to spread that money around. And I land.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the question, I kind of, if you break it down in the layman terms, I think that because right now, in terms of the alternative currencies, I won't call it Bitcoin, I won't call it whatever you want to call it. I'm saying in terms of alternative currencies, right now the participation rate in that is very low. In other words, we haven't reached mass adaptation to that platform. Is kind of, to me, is kind of the equivalent of, if you go back in history of, do you remember when we all one time received a paper check, right? Like we would
Mm-hmm.
get our paper check and we would take our paper check to our bank and we'd go deposit it in our favorite bank, or we had a bank. Well, now we're in the digital area where the imagine being able to get your payroll, being able to get your benefits, and being able to decide what type of platform you evolve that to, other than the current central banking system that's there. It's going to take a while before we get there, but it's a huge space. There's a huge volume there, that's there in terms of volume. I know probably 5 to 10 years ago, like the majority of if you looked at all cryptocurrencies, the amount
Yeah.
the coins and profits that were there or holdings, it was centrally maintained within only less than a dozen, wallets, major investments and so forth, investors holding that. So I think that the adaptation of getting more people to participate in that space is huge. It's significant. So I think that that potentially could lead, to that change. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's getting those people that used to go to the checkout counter at Kroger or whatever retailer and writing a check, that didn't want to have a debit card. They still wanted to carry cash. It's still a change, but I think that the timing is right for that because we carry all of our technology on our phones. We pay by tapping our phones. We pay that. In
Hmm.
terms of privacy, that's a whole other area to get into. But I think in terms of what we're leading to in terms of the dollar, um, going forward, we're witnessing a systematic approach and shift to that. The question is, at the end of the day, who controls that system, and what does that look like? Is it going to be centrally maintained? Is it going to be decentralized to allow people to individually decide those? And I'll end it there.
So,
I like
uh,
to jump in.
okay. So, Rick, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. And then I'll
No,
speak
go
after
ahead,
you.
Charles. You go first. I'll
Um,
come after you. How about that?
so just a little bit of thing. So I spend a lot of time just introducing myself. I spend a lot of time in the crypto space as far as like attacking smart contracts and hacking the securities of it. And just looking at the like how the landscape is right now, there is a lot of investment in it that's just not getting reported on the back end. But in the future, it will be, I look at cryptos more so like going to be like an extension, kind of like how wireless is. Many years ago, they were saying that wireless was going to replace everything, which is still not the case. With crypto, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be more so you'll still have your money or whatnot, like how it is now with like banks and cards. Of course, it'll be more so digital with your phones. But okay, the God IB, I'm just chatting, but 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 all in all, what it will do, it's more so you'll have more of an option. People will be able to because what they're trying to push it now to like have like a more control. A lot of companies are just trying to gain more control back as far as like the economy is concerned related to crypto in a from a financial standpoint. Now, the only problem with a lot of this stuff is security. And this is something that they just haven't figured out at all as of yet. And yes, Skull, we are using large language modules to do smart contract audits. That is a thing. Um, I utilize it to attack smart contracts. So I utilize large language modules to extract coins, to modify gas fees, to steal NFTs. So that is a thing, and I'll land there.
All right, Charles. That's a really good input. But as what Carlos had mentioned, it's all about adaptation. It's all about being able to have that financial shift that's happening now. This happened in the early 2000s when people were able to use PayPal as a way to send money, and that is such a dramatic change in how people send money all over the world. They used to depend on Western Union and MoneyGram. That was the only way to send money that was
Uh-huh.
known at the time. And then when the adaptation of sending money through PayPal, people didn't trust it in the beginning, and it
Right.
boils down to trusting the system. And where Bitcoin is today is that more people are more educated about it. They understand the systems. They know that if they send blank 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 to blank, if I was sending it to Carlos, I would feel confident in the system. And that's what it boiled down to, is trust and confident in the system that my transaction would get from point A to point B. Okay. And another thing is portability. I mean, imagine bringing $500,000 cash through the airport from Vietnam to China. You can't do it. You're going to be stopped. You're going to be put in a room. You're going to be questioned. Now, if I went through on my, Bitcoin wallet and went through on my device, they would never really know. Okay. So understand that people are taking the whole finances in their own hands.
Yeah, they're
They
taking their
are,
risk.
yeah. And at the same time, even in the trading world, most before, like 15 years ago, you had to depend on a person to manage your trades. You have a money manager or whatnot, but some people don't have enough money to be managed, so they put it in a mutual fund, or through work. So now there's so many different options. I know that Charles mentioned the word options a lot.
Yeah.
Options to choices, right? So as the
Hmm.
choices become available and people become more knowledgeable and confident in the system, they now are taking matters in their own hands. And when you take matters in your own hands, you are not relying on the system to make those decisions for you.
That's true.
Therefore, now people are now making those decisions for themselves, and it creates a lot of choices for people. And so there will be a major shift in the next few years,
Hmm.
because there's going to be people that will make choices for themselves, and it's going to rock the financial system. Why I know is back in 2002, when I had my tech firm and we were a money transfer company, we
Hmm.
worked with the likes of PayPal. In fact, if
Yep.
you Google my name, I'm out there. I actually hold a trademark and patents on money transfer and ledger system. I was the very first company that did that. And
Yeah.
by understanding how that works, we have to change the way money is moved. I mean, the SWIFT system, money sending money via a wire, is very antiquated. Sometimes
So
funds are held longer than they should be, and we don't really know where it's at. Whether it's the banks making extra money from the float. Again,
right.
that's really not fair. When you already initiated a transfer out of your account to the destination, there should be no bank holding that money and making money on the float. I'm done
That's
speaking.
true. But
Yeah.
but here's the thing, real quick, right before you go. The thing is, with like you said, you taking finances into your own hands, but what comes now, that all sounds great and everything, but it comes with consequences, because what's happening right now, a lot of people are getting their money stolen in the crypto world, and there's nothing they can really do about it. Their money's just gone. There's no
That's
policies in
facts.
place. There's no policies in place. There's nothing, like, it's literally like the wild wild west right now.
There's no insurance, nothing. There's no infrastructure to kind of
No,
recoup or
For
exactly
non-custodial accounts, at least.
it. And custodial, because there's ways around that too. um I'll leave it at that. But all I'm saying is, once your money is gone, there's no system to complain to. And then here's on the back end. Okay, cool. You trust the system. What happens when the system gets attacked? What do you do then? These are things that, as a people, we're still trying to figure out. It's going to take a very long time for people to trust anything that they're not used to. We still have a whole baby boomer generation that's alive. Do we still have a lot of Gen
Well,
Xers that are still
Charles,
alive?
that's
Okay.
that's why you need. But Charles, you have to also understand, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't put it all in the crypto Bitcoin world. That's why people are.
Uh,
That's why gold has gone up, because some people are buying a little bit of gold. They're putting a little bit here. They're putting cash under their wallet. They're wearing chains around their neck. They don't trust the system, exactly. But
they
then
never
they have
trusted the
choices.
system,
Yeah, especially
even in the
Asians, man.
PayPal
We
days.
we don't we don't trust the banks. We don't trust the banks at all. And so
But
we have other alternative ways. And even if we, buy other things, it's that way we know that we can have our hands on some sort of asset that you can barter. And the barter system is going to be actually going up, because um they're going to exchange value for value. So that's another thing. But
yeah,
I'm going to I'm going to eat my
and
Thai food right now. Sorry.
yeah. Well, enjoy your chai food.
I think
Good.
what you're saying in the broader sense of it is that there is an increasing lack of confidence in American economy due to what is going on. That's why you're seeing all these diversifications and investment. I mean, we love America. We want America to succeed. But if we need to tell ourselves the truth, there is no way America is going to win this trade battle with China. It's not
You don't
going
think
to
so?
happen. No, it's not going to happen. Okay,
I agree.
because
I
China is
agree.
an advantage. China
Okay.
is an advantage here. Okay, history repeats itself. Now, China. I mean, China doesn't depend on America on obtaining raw materials. That's the key. China depends on America on finished products as consumer. Okay,
And
so
food,
what
even
happened in
food.
1989 is repeating itself. When United States sanctioned China, what did China do? China left and went to other parts of the world and has become successful in developed markets, other sorts of the world. The hubris of Trump administration is that they're counting on China for China to come on the table. China is not coming on the table. You've lost right there, right? So that 15%, China is now going to other places, the same thing they did in 1989, and developing market. And now they're developing market, they're using one stone to kill like multiple birds. Not only are they developing market in order to hedge the bet, to cushion themselves, they're also driving a wedge within our alliances. Okay? So they are killing three bears, multiple bears with one stone. Now, what advantage do they have? They know that Trump administration lacks domestic consensus on his policy because his policy is very coherent. Trump has not sold it internally. So the chances of that being reversed is as good as anything. China can
But
wait it
you,
out.
but you're forgetting that Xi
Do you understand?
Jinping he's a dictator, bro. So of course he's got the time to wait it out. America is in
Yeah,
flux. Like,
China
you
is
see what I'm trying
China
to
is going
say?
to wait it out. Okay, it's going to wait it
But
out. So at the end of the
go on.
day, okay, America is
Uh-huh.
going to suffer within this period of time, and then it's going to get reversed, and America is going to suffer. Then at the end of the day, what you have, you lost major contracts, you lost the confidence of your allies. You've lost all those trade avenues that will never come back, and America is going to be ruling. This does not make any sense in any. I don't
It's
see it. There is no strategy here except
okay.
hubris.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, G, let me ask you a question. Um do you think that do you think that China are a natural enemy of NATO?
No,
Do you think that
at
Russia
all.
is a natural do you think that Russia is a natural enemy of NATO?
Natural. No, he has. Russia is a threat. Yes.
So do you think that if Russia and NATO got into war, China would back up Russia? They're allies, right?
There will be. They are client states. Okay, they are
But
client
they're but
states.
but they're
Hold on.
allies, right? Go
Hold
on.
on. Hold on.
It's just
Um,
I don't want to do that to you in a simple yes or no. But the
no,
answer
no,
to the
I'm gonna.
questions
I'm gonna
is
tell you
yes. The
because
same way that Iran would be dragged in, the same way that another handful of nations would be dragged in. The only point I'm trying to make is if the European nations side with China, it kind of is an act of war in a sense. Does that make sense? I mean, it wouldn't actually be labeled an act of war, but at least America would know who its allies are, right? And if the European nations were to choose China over America, America would just pull out of NATO. And I envision, seeing as everybody likes to say that Trump likes to get into bed with dictators when really he just knows how to fucking negotiate, and you never put your negotiating partners down or your the people on the opposite side of the table, right? If you're trying to get a good deal, like where would you get off trying to call them fools and then trying to like what? I personally believe that you might see Russia becoming a trading partner with America, right? It's because the smart play would be to pull Russia away from the clutches of China. If you know that China have their Belt and Road Initiative, they have their 2030 plan to become the manufacturing superpower of the world. If you know that they're going in they're using a kind of soft power strategy in Africa right now, we can see all of these things are happening, right? Jesus Christ, I'm super tired, man. The point I'm trying to make is the only reason that China is able to do what it does is because it either rips off American intellectual property, right, and then resells the cheaply manufactured goods back to the American market, and thus so it eats off of the American consumer, right? It is able to build itself up, not entirely, obviously, because it trades with the rest of the world. It produces and manufactures for the rest of the world, but a large majority of its, let's say, income comes from the American market. And I think Trump, when I know Trump is banking off of that, right? Everybody sells us their stuff. We consume everybody's stuff. This is what he's been saying. It's pretty obvious. So if America consumes everybody else's stuff, that is the leverage that Trump needs to kind of say to people, well, if you want to take the piss, or if you don't want to have reciprocal tap, then maybe we need to kind of impose a higher flipping, and because of that, people are now coming to the table and saying, okay, cool, we get it. We've been taking the piss for years. Let's work out a deal, right? So what am I saying? I don't think it's hubris. I don't think it's hubris. He's been saying the same thing for 30, 40 years. The same thing for 30, 40 years when he never had any presidential power. He never had the power to put in place any kind of policy. He was calling out the politicians in power. So for you to say it's hubris, I think it's a bit misguided. I think what he's trying to do is what he said he's doing. I mean, he's pretty transparent.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. Listen, I am not knocking Trump on his overall goal. I'm only knocking him on his approach. Okay, you mentioned NATO. NATO wasn't an American idea. NATO was an European concept that they brought America in. You have to understand China. I think that we are making the same problem mistake that we made during the containment. Okay, that drove us into the Cold War. We kind of reading China that China is this a country that is on a rampage trying to dominate, just like we did in the Western Hemisphere, try to take over. China, that is a misreading of China. China works on interest. Okay, if you remember what Kissinger did in the 1971, going into China because of Soviet Union, the reason we forced China to open up because of the threat that China had, the China perceived from Russia. China and Russia has never been like buddies. They had the same communist ideology, but China was different, and they were enemies. Stalin wanted to take over Russia before, I mean China before we intervened, and that was why we have what we have now. So you have to understand that it's just that America has been sleeping for all these years, and China have taken that opportunity to invest and develop economically, and China is not looking the way we are doing it right now. I think we're on the wrong side of history. It would take me like the whole evening to give you a good analysis and historical analysis of how we got here. The problem that I think that Trump administration is making is that they are not drawing from history. Okay, I think their position, their approach is very impulsive, it's ad hoc, it's not well reasoned, and it's not lined up with in a historical context. That's why you see China doing what they are doing. China is not going to discuss with this guy. Okay, they rather discuss with somebody else than to discuss with this guy. That 15%, yes. And China, look at what they are doing. They have coherency in their domestic policy against America. They are all united. We are not. They are willing to take the pain, in order to protect their national interest, and they are going to survive this.
Do
We
you
are the
think
ones
that?
that are losing.
Do you?
Pretty much America's doomed. That's what you're
We are
saying.
the
Yeah,
ones that are losing.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
We are the ones that are
What?
losing on this fight.
Sure. Do you really think that China? Do you honestly think? Okay, I'm not even
They're
gonna
gonna
open that.
hurt.
No, no, no. I was
Listen,
gonna
they're
say.
gonna hurt. Do you understand? They're gonna hurt. They prefer not to have this, but since you impose this on them, they're gonna take it. Do you understand? China.
I hear where you're coming from. I just have a more optimistic view on and hope that that America will come out on top. Um, you
The
know, I,
only way
I
America could have come
go
up
on.
on top was to have done this diplomatically.
Yeah, but
And
if he done
you
it
do it
diplomatically,
diplomatically
people
by hold on.
go
You
on,
do
go
it
on, finish your thought, Bob.
diplomatically, and you go along with your allies, right? You go along with your allies. If you had your allies on board, you didn't piss everybody off. You wouldn't be losing contracts like with Boeing contracts, and you would be losing agricultural contracts to Australians and all whatnot because they are your allies. Do you understand? They will say no because we all have pacts, South Asian pacts, in order to contain China. That China has already driven a wedge. You wouldn't
You
be
know what's really
having
crazy?
China influencing. You wouldn't be having China influencing Japan and South Korea that we have military bases in. Going along with them, having broad economic bilateral agreements like that. You understand? This is because Trump pissed everybody off.
Sure,
He,
but
he,
those
he shouldn't
same
have done that.
them same governments that them same countries that you're talking about are either members of the World Economic Forum who had an idea to enact a global fucking reset, right? And so Trump, if you can't see it, has actually taken that from them, their ability to then reset and remake the world in their image economically, right? So by doing what he's done, this is my this is the thought that I'm working on, right? By doing what he's done, he's in effect he's stopped. He's playing them at their own game in a sense. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, if they were going to try and crash America, because this was the plan, apparently, right, to destabilize the world, COVID-19 offered an opportunity for there to be a great reset. This is the words of Klaus Schwab, and they had to move quickly so as to reset. Yada yada yada. You can go listen to it for yourself, right? And Trump came in the first term. He went in and he said to the WEF, America is never going to bow to you. It's never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. Not as long as I have breath in my lungs. Right.
Theatrics.
He then lost his second term. He then lost out on the second term, 2020 elections, and then of course he's back in office right now. So in my opinion, what he's doing is he's attempting to finish what he started by catching them before they're able to enact a great reset. He's done it already, right? Now, if these other if the so-called allies are allies, then they stick by you. You don't run away when times get tough. Otherwise, then you know that you're not allies, bro. Like, what are you talking about? If one of your good friends has your back until times get hard, like, times get tough, he obviously isn't a friend of yours, right? You can't call him an ally because now this is the time for you to stand by me. So
That
fuck him.
depends on how
Do you
he
know what I'm
goes
trying to say?
about it.
My brother, when you paint your friends and your allies, with your foes and your enemies with the same brush, right?
Bro,
And
if your allies are taking the piss
hold
out of
on,
you, eating at your
hold on,
house, and they can't they
hold
can't
on.
give
Look,
you any help when you ask for help, they're not your allies, bro. They're
look.
sheep, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, bro.
No,
You know what I'm gonna
you're.
say? If they're able to, no one.
Did you drop off the map?
If they come to your house and they sell you a series of goods, and you're not able to then sell things back to them, back to their family, tell me how you're allies, bro.
Because
Like the brother
that's
explained
not
to you
what
before that
happened.
you can import champagne to America, but you can't sell anything back to the French. Like, what the fuck is that about?
No, look at what is going on. What is going on is that this administration replaced our friends to be enemies, and the enemy, our common enemy, as our friend. That's the fever, that's the sentiment in Europe, and you are in London over there, and that's how they
Bro, but
feel,
it's the
and that's
sentiment.
why.
It's not
Hold
the
on,
sentiment of the people,
hold
bro.
on. Can I
That's
can
what
I
you don't
finish,
understand.
please?
It's not the sentiment of the people. It's the sentiment of the
Can I finish?
governments. You can,
Okay,
but
so
you have to be correct.
the government represents the people.
No, you're
Okay,
incorrect.
And
I'm
the
in
people,
Europe
and
as
you don't
well.
hold
bro,
on now,
that's
and
not correct.
you don't see anybody in London demonstrating in Piccadilly circles or anywhere, okay, against the government position. Rather, they are embracing it. Do you understand? Listen, our current government have made a very big mistake. I hope that it could be rescinded. I hope that we can be able to recoup and amend it, but I think it's far gone. Okay, you have to, I mean, look at the appearance of whatever decision that have been made for the past 90 days. It seems to be making up policies as we go on. You put nothing seems to be well thought out. You announce a trade war, then you rescind it. You announce again, then you rescind it. It's like there is no adult in the room that is well versed in policy making with a direct objective and implementation of the policies. It's just like it's ad hoc. And that's why the whole world is rattled. That's why America is losing its confidence and losing its prestige. And you cannot tell me that that is happening. The world is losing confidence in American leadership. And this took some time in order to develop. For us to just lose it like that within a short period of time, and perhaps irretrievably, is something that is very costly. And it's also something that we should not sweep under the rug. Mistake has been made. So let's kind of see a way that we can correct it. If we continue like this, America will have a very long time to recover from this. And I'm done.
So
So I don't disagree.
thank you to
Uh,
the brother for bringing me back up.
yeah.
Cheers to you, mate. I don't know why somebody pushed me off. I'm actually talking to my African brother. It
Sorry
the
about
sen-
that, man. I don't know who did that.
no, it's pathetic, but it is what it is. I've come to expect nothing but the best. The sentiment in England, it might surprise you. Keir Starmer is will go. Keir Starmer is and will go down as the worst prime minister in the history of modern politics. He is the worst person ever. People are getting arrested for posting things on Facebook. Okay, he's the most hated individual, and he's only been in office for what? How many months now? The sentiment in the United Kingdom is that we want a British version of Donald Trump, right? So this idea that Europe is holds Trump or America in disdain is false. Do you go and ask the French what they think about their French leader? Go and ask the Spanish what they think. Up until the current Italian prime minister, go and ask the Italians what they think. I've got friends in all of these countries, been to all of these countries, lived in all of these countries, right? And again, don't listen to the BBC, funded by USAID. Don't listen to the state-sponsored BBC, who hid pedophilia from the world, who allowed that to go on. These organizations are corrupt. Listen to the people on the ground. I've been in the marches, had the conversations, interviewed the people. Right? Nobody who's worth their weight and salt, right, is against what America's doing because we understand what Trump is doing. You understand? We are against globalism, which is why we pulled out of the out of the European Union in the first place with Brexit. So this idea that that America is seen, bro, no, you you only need to go and speak to a non-liberal individual who actually loves their country or likes the British whatever, right? Whatever it is, your fish and chips, whatever, right? You
You
only go
know,
and speak to an individual, and you'll find that everything that you're saying is not necessarily the truth. But I'm not saying that you're talking shit. I'm just saying that maybe listen
I
to
got
people
you.
from the United Kingdom. They will tell you.
You know, when you're talking about geopolitics, you got to separate the issues. I live in London too. I'm a resident in London. I live in both places, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, my family lives in London. I own properties in London. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there are consensus in some issues when it comes to immigrations and stuff. There are consensus. Yes, they can align. They can align with Trump in that area. But in the broader sense of it, you cannot succeed in the argument that Britain embraces Trump at the
Bro,
European
of
ideology,
course I can.
right?
I'm telling
No,
you, because I'm
hold on,
having the
hold on now.
conversations with the people
I
currently, and
let
you're
you
telling me
finish.
that
I
you
let you
tell, but
finish.
you're telling me that what I'm saying is incorrect, and I'm telling you that
Let
it's not. I'm
let
having the
let,
conversations as we speak.
let,
What are you talking
let,
about?
let, let me finish. Okay, first of all, you know what? Okay, you win. Let's just leave it like that. If you feel that the whole London is supporting
I never
Trumpian
said the whole.
ideology,
I never
that's
said
fine.
that. I never said that. Don't reframe
That's
what I said.
exactly
So what are
what
we
you
arguing?
said, and it's
Why
a
are we arguing,
lie,
bro?
right? And you keep on going on this tangent, diatribe about Europe as if you're the authority in Europe. You're wrong.
No, but I'm having a conversation with somebody else. I don't even know who
Say,
you are
yeah,
or see your
you
face. It's not a
Yeah, but
always
diatribe.
say
they can
little
It's the
contribute
slick
too
stuff
because
it's not.
like that.
Yeah, but
That
once you're on
doesn't
the
all right.
stage,
matter.
everybody can contribute.
You know what's really funny is that nobody was talking and we were having a conversation. A diatribe is when somebody goes on and speaks forever. Now you've just
Yeah,
chimed in
you've been
to offer
babbling for the
nothing. So let's
longest.
leave, let's give you the mic.
Oh,
Let's add some value to the
you're gonna
conversation,
try
please. Go
those
on.
tactics again, Augustus.
There's no tactics. You just put me down to bring
Oh, how
yourself up.
cute.
Fly, little
Bro,
birdie.
stop
Fly.
crying, bro. You want a
Fly.
baby bottle?
Fly. I'm not crying, buddy. You're the one crying,
No, I'm
buddy. You're
not.
talking too
I'm not.
much. Go
Just
on.
let the man
Say
go
something
on. Stop
sensible
cutting
then.
him off. I'm actually busy,
Say
so you're
something
lucky.
sensible, buddy. Fuck, we're having a conversation with my brother.
Yeah, yeah,
What's your
yeah, yeah,
problem?
yeah. Keep babbling.
Well, I do think Augustus is making a point here that globalization might no longer be serving the interests of industrialized Western democracies, such as Britain or America. And we don't have to look too far to find proof of his argument. The chairman of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, who's been shilling globalization for the last 30 freaking years, stepped down this morning. So, I mean,
Bingo.
it seems to support, at least on the surface, his argument right here. I mean, I would love to hear an argument for why me splitting my salary between me and a Pakistani brickmaker is going to that's going to make me poorer because I'm pretty sure Pakistani brickmakers make a lot less than I do, right? So I get globalization. The theory behind it was if we created a global middle class, right, then we would be able to export our higher end goods and services to these now enriched consumers as we elevated, developing countries into developed countries. But unfortunately, we have seen certain trading partners subvert that and steal our IP and just make things on their own, which is not very nice. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think the issue, Scott, that you're raising here is valid to understand that we're talking about two different things. There are one component of it that is free trade, but what Trump is arguing is fair trade. That's where you come in, okay? And we're not knocking Trump on trying to reset. We're only knocking him on the approach and the unintended consequences of his approach. Okay, some of these things need to be unwind. If you want to ask yourself, how did you get here? That's a valid question. Then you have to go back into American grand strategy, how America got to where we are, because America wasn't founded on this idea of globalization. America, if you go into American history, starting from Washington's farewell address that's always been read in the Congress until 1984, they stopped reading it. America has always was funded with the ideology of isolationism, okay, and then promoting trade, American influence through trade, in order because it works in American best interest, national security interest. If the world is united in trade, there will be communication. There will be free trade that will encourage democracy and internal stability that will overall make America safe in the long run. Okay, but we got dragged into it after the First World War, and then the Second World War with the Marshall Plan, and then with the containment due to our misread of the USSR, the Soviet Union's ambition, which basically is the same mistake that we're doing now when we come to China. So we got drawn into it. I'm not knocking Trump by trying to pull some things back for us to kind of focus on the Western Hemisphere, maintain our hegemony in the West, while China is trying to dominate in the East. So we have to decide, what do we want? Okay, China is doing the same thing that America have done with the Monroe Doctrine, trying to control its own political affairs. Russia is doing the same thing. Okay, so we have to really decide. But the way that we are coming up of it is just incoherent. Are we? I mean, what is it that we want? Do we want to promote free trade, or do we want to be go back to the days of isolationism? What is it that we want? We basically can't have it both ways. If we do, let's define what our grand strategy is. So that's why everybody is running amok. Nobody understands American grand strategy. The only strategy that we have is that we know is in Trump's head. And he comes in and he makes it up as he goes along, and everybody is rattled. Don't you just see the rattleness and the volatility in the political environment, even in the what economic environment? So nobody knows where we are heading. That's why we're having this. Even Americans internally do not know where we are heading. That's why we're having all these conversations.
Who currently makes the best chips?
Taiwan.
right? And where
And
will
and and
go on?
again, let me expand on that. And
Okay, thanks.
Taiwan, and what is going on now is Trump has created an environment where China can easily now implement its plan to go into Taiwan, and there will be less resistance.
So,
That's the situation you have now.
but isn't it also true that the same company that produces the chips in Taiwan are investing in America so that they can produce those chips in America as a kind of hedge in case China go in and take Taiwan? Wouldn't that also be true? Wouldn't it also be true that Apple
That
will?
just recently happened. That's not something that,
Sure,
like you're trying to
sure, but if
frame
it's
that a little
but
different.
but I never gave a fucking date. I'm
No, I
telling you
know
that
your
it's
style,
happening,
bro.
right?
You
So
by your mission, you're
relax,
deceptive.
just relax yourself, relax,
I
take a
am
deep breath,
relaxed.
in through the nose, hold for four,
Here we go
relax,
with
right?
his acting
So
skills. You better stay in that
you're
lot.
still yapping, okay? Go for it. You done? Gonna go? Why do you keep jumping off mic when I'm talking? It's like you got a fascination with me or something.
I
Do
do
you want
that
to
with
go?
everyone.
I can. Right, bro. Go for it, man.
I mean, go on.
Cool.
Enough with the
Stop.
preambles,
So,
man.
you still going? You're still going.
So I guess you bring up an interesting point, St. Jude, which is it's clear that there's a backlash against globalism, but what's sort of the plan? And that was what I was trying to communicate earlier tonight. Was I don't see a defined plan of it's like, okay, I get globalism in a way served America's interest, especially in the containment of the spread of communism, right? When the USSR existed and there were two great powers fighting during the Cold War. I get it. I get how it was very helpful to encourage free trade and encourage globalism. But now I also understand the populist approach in many of these countries of moving away from it. But as you said, St. Jude, and I agree with this, is I don't know where we're going. Are we going towards self-reliance? I mean, North Korea does that. They call it Juche, and they're like the poorest people on the freaking planet. So, I mean, obviously, we have a lot more land mass and a lot more resources than North Korea, which is like about the size of, I don't know, freaking Illinois. But at the same time, there are resources that we just don't have. For example, coffee does not really grow anywhere in America, right? And it grows in tropical climates, right? I mean, you could grow it here in a greenhouse, I guess, but that's not really efficient. So it's like, well, what's our actual plan, right? I mean, there's just what's the and that's what's not clear to me at this point.
That's the problem. That's the problem. I wish I can understand that Trump, in the long run, if he was to be in power, projected to be in power to the next 10, 15 years, yes, maybe America could get somewhere with this. But we live in a democracy here, and there is a transition of power. And he's trying to rush things to get more accomplished within the 4 years that he has. And that is not sustainable. That is not practical. So at the end of the day, it's just going to end up getting the job half done. Again, then there is need to have a reset. There is need to pull China back and to have China cooperate and comply with the fair trade initiatives, by which is why we brought them into the WTO. Okay, we drag them out and say, come out into the world and join into the world community, and then there will be trade. But they don't play fair. So yes, they need to play fair. But there is a way. There have been strategies on the ground. You're going to need your allies because everybody else is feeling it. It's not only United States. What China is doing to United States, they're doing to every other country. They're doing to most of our allies. And there has been consistent approaches by different governments, although they were not robust as they used to be. And Trump is trying to do something about it. But you really need to pull back and say, okay, what are the consequences of what I'm doing? Sometimes you don't approach problems and with such a forceful mandate like that. Okay, so I'm only worried about the consequences of it. At the end of the day, yes, this is what you want to achieve, but what are the feasibility of you achieving that within the resources and the short span that you have, right? I mean, a better approach would be, first of all, uh, try to take care of your domestic polarization, sell it to your country, have a concise and sustainable foreign policy initiative that even the next administration, whether it be Democrat or Republican, will continue from where you stop. That was why we succeeded in bringing the Soviet Union down. That was why containment worked. Okay, when George Kennan came up with the policy of containment, America was bang on it. America identified USSR as a threat, and the whole national resources was invested in it. Even though America paid a great price for it, everybody supported it. When he left, Kissinger got involved, Kennedy got involved. Okay, Johnson took over, got involved, and then Nixon. It continued even not to Ronald Reagan that saw the dismantling of Soviet Union, because that policy made sense and it was sold and everybody was on it. Okay, but what he's doing now, America is not is polarized. America is not sold on it. If you want to fight China economically, try to disrupt their mercantile hegemony, yes, there are some certain things you got to do. Some of those companies you want to bring back, industries you want to bring back to the United States. Have you sat down with the companies that are greedy companies that are shifting all this manufacturing overseas, and sat down with them and said, okay, I want you guys to come back. What is it that you need? Okay, what can I do for you? Do you need some kind of a concession?
This
And
is
then
what
you
he's
have to
doing.
lay the foundation. Get your no. He's not doing that. He's not
Wow.
doing that.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
you're not doing that because first of all, for you to bring those industries, you have to develop the skills to match with what China has, because they are going over there mainly for the skills. And where do you develop the skills? You develop them in the institutions, the universities. But are you working with the universities? No, you're pissing them off too, right? Okay, you are going to get the workers. What is the comprehensive immigration policy that you have put in? It's been 90 days now. Okay, nothing is going on in the Congress for us to have a comprehensive immigration in order to attract all these people that can work, that could help sustain these industries. Nothing like that, right? Rather, you're coming up with $5 million, $5 million for Gold Card initiative. How does that make any sense? Do you understand? So you have not laid the foundation yet, and you're going after the war. You're going to war and you're shooting yourself on the foot. That's why it doesn't make any sense. I think his plans are being rushed. It's not well implemented. There is no concise strategy on this. But the overall idea I agree with. But the implementation is completely flawed. And I rest with that.
If you understood the plan,
Yo,
if you
one
under
second here,
if
Augustus. One
go on.
second. I appreciate that. Hey guys, real quick, guys. Welcome to Debate the News. If you guys are listening, I want to say, if you're listening at home, make sure you guys are downloading the Chatter Social app and coming. And just definitely want you guys to continue to listen to us at home. Definitely want that. But we also want you guys to come join us. That way, you listen at home. You will be hearing yourself speak as well. We do these shows nightly live. This is a live podcast, folks, a live podcast. So what that means is, guess what, folks? You guys are able to participate and come in and with us live. So also, with that being said, folks, I want to make sure that you guys understand that Debate the News, believe it or not, we when we do these shows, we take people from the regular audience that comes up to the stage and speak. They're able to unmute and join in the conversation anytime. So please come join us. If you guys are currently in the audience, look up top, guys. We have the links up top. Click on the links. Okay, follow the podcast, download the podcast. Okay, they're on every wherever you look at listen to a podcast or consume your podcast, you're able to actually consume this podcast. So I want to say thank you guys once again. CH, we're going to be doing a hard reset once again, a hard reset. And what does that mean? That means that on CH, you will find yourself in a hallway for about 5 seconds. For about 5 seconds, we shut the room down, open it back up in 5 seconds. Really, it's a really quick process. So you guys aren't really affected. So you guys can come back in. But with that being said, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for joining us. But CH, you will be going down momentarily, but you will be back up in 5 seconds. Please just come right back in the room. CH, you're gone.